it's time to close out Uptober, October, all of that good stuff. We're going to be diving into the closing charts for TradFi, for crypto, talking a little bit about what's going on in Japan, preparing for tomorrow's FOMC meeting. All of that and more today on Money Never Sleeps. Welcome back, everybody. As we get going, do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Nothing Kevin or I say is financial advice. Please do your own research before making any buys or sells. Kev, we're closing out October, 2 months left in the year. FOMC tomorrow. We're going to be hearing from our buddy Jay Powell. We got earnings coming out throughout the week. Kind of a boring day in the markets. You look at TradFi, we see that everything is in the green between like 0.15 and 0.35%. So I think everyone's just kind of in wait and see mode when it comes to what the Fed is going to say tomorrow. We all know what the Fed's going to do. They're not going to raise rates. That is a certainty. But it's all about what Powell says. And that's where all of the drama is going to be tomorrow, beginning at 2:30 Eastern when he takes the podium. So the markets are looking kind of, just reserved at the moment, waiting in anticipation. What are you focused on today, though? I know we have stuff going on in Japan with the yen. I know that the VIX is all over the place. The dollar is strengthening based off of the news from Japan. What are your takes on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think this morning I focused more on the VIX more than anything. Again, this is a monthly close. It's really important to see how things are closing out the month. But I think that some of the news that around Japan is also going to impact a lot of things going into November. So we can start with Bank of Japan. So we saw that it was pretty much a unanimous decision from the Bank of Japan that they were going to, allow yields on the 10-year Japanese government bonds to rise above 1%. So they've had a pretty strict monetary policy for the longest, just to pretty much make sure that inflation doesn't get out of hand, neither do the yields. We're seeing that there is a bit of issue in Japan. We know that there's been inflation going up. We see that their wages are not necessarily going up with the rate of inflation, and it's eventually going to cause major problems for the economy. And again, they are one that we've been keeping an eye on because they also hold, I think they are number 2 when it comes to U.S. number of U.S. debt. I think it's them, then China. We know that China has been offloading like crazy. So seeing them kind of take this, away, and now we're waiting to see if they take any action to save the yen in any way. Obviously bring down inflation. It's kind of a sit and wait situation. But yeah, the dollar's taking off based off of it. But if they do decide to do anything, we talked about that yen carry trade, right? If they start to raise rates, then obviously they're going to have to cancel some of their positions, sell off U.S. treasuries, and then eventually, borrow in a different market because then it's too expensive to borrow against their yen and go into the U.S. market. So it's really just interesting to see how this is lining up. This is kind of the first type of non-intervention news that we got out of the Bank of Japan recently. They usually just are kind of tight-lipped. We've just been watching that yen USD pair get closer to 150. Today it's sitting at what, 150? Let me spell this up. 151.59. It's getting out of hand. So this is definitely something that needs to see how this plays out, but nothing too crazy until we do see any action from the bank. I don't know if we're going to see that until maybe their next meeting.
Yeah. Unless something really bad happens, I don't think we'll be hearing anything from Bank of Japan before then. All right. We see tech is getting beat up today. Crypto is relatively flat. Let's talk about Solana for a second here.
Yeah.
Because this is the big winner of Uptober to this point. We've seen Solana rise around 42% this month, which is absolutely crazy. It is above $35 a token. We're at 36.21 as I'm looking at the charts right now. Solana Breakpoint, their big annual conference is taking place in Amsterdam. That could lead to some of the price action if there are some big announcements coming out, some big partnerships with the Solana Foundation. We do know that FTX is going to be liquidating some of their Solana. I mean, it's in relative to their market cap. I don't really think it's a huge amount, but we have seen a meteoric rise in Solana this month.
Yeah, I mean, let's put it this way: from the bottom, the trough to the top, we see that it's actually shot up roughly 59%. Right on the monthly, it might be different. I think it's on the monthly, it's even higher on the monthly. Says we're up 69% on the monthly here, which is
Nice.
absolutely wild. Perfect number, right? But yeah, I think there's a bit of a misconception when we look at Solana. So let's go into the technicals and then we'll talk about maybe what's actually going on here. So we can see that we're still in this massive parallel channel, right? I thought that we were going to be putting in this massive 5-way move to the downside back here. We had the wave count for it. However, we hit the bottom of this and then we just started invalidating that structure. Is what it is, right? Nothing we can do about it now. But for how fast this shot up, and we're finding resistance here at the top, is it possible that we do break above this? I think it's possible that we could definitely break this channel and go up a little bit, kind of like a fake out. But at the end of the day, if we're just going to try and look at this rationally, we are in a parallel channel. This probably, we shot up extremely fast. You can see on the daily we're overbought. If we look at the weekly, completely overbought down there. If we look at the monthly, we're getting close to overbought, right? And this is the thing where it's really dangerous and everyone should be aware of Solana. Look at this monthly volume. That makes no sense, guys. The volume just shoots up out of nowhere, right? And you can see how much it was absolutely going down here. The volumes, it was bearish divergence. Price was still kind of going up into this range in July, and then we just get this massive green candle here in October, right? Let's look at this on the daily. You can see that there hasn't been volume this high since November 2022, which is FTX. And we've been putting in this massive parallel channel since last year. So it's about a year old, this parallel channel is, right? You have to question what are the motives for this pumping right now. I think a lot of what's happening right now are people who got, and allow me to be frank with everyone, fucked at the bottom here when FTX collapsed. Look where the price is. It's right back to right before FTX, that Sunday, that weekend before FTX collapsed. It's right back to it. So I think a lot of people who didn't get out earlier are getting out now, whereas that's why we're seeing the FTX liquidators get out. So do I think that this is a natural move? Not at all. I think this is 100% a manipulated move. You're going to hear me say manipulation all the time, whatever. If I'm the asshole who's just screaming at, screaming the end is nigh on the corner of the street, but I'm letting you know that, hey, there's something fishy going on here, so be it. I don't care. But this makes no sense to me at all why the volume's shot up this much, why we're back at November 22 levels, and everything is extremely overbought. This just screams to me that this is the big winner because they made a lot of people big losers when FTX collapsed. Now they're able to get out. And I mean, this is the perfect selling opportunity if you had to ride that whole wave for a whole year, right? Solana, yeah, did great. Solana's had some really good periods. June to July, good move there. I mean, even from September to where we are currently, there's been good moves up. But I mean, if you just held all the way to maturity, I mean, this is the perfect time to get out. So I don't necessarily think that Solana is bullish. I think there's a lot of resistance up here. I think there's also a lot of manipulation to push it up to this levels, and people are getting excited buying in here. It's a good chance that you're going to get hurt in either direction at this point. So I'm staying away from Solana. This is definitely one that I wanted to talk about on the show today. I'm glad you brought it up too, because this is fishy as fuck.
Stinks of fish. All right, let's see any other monthly closes that we want to look at. ETH, everything's going to end up on the month, which it's October. That's what everyone said was going to happen. So that's good. Price is going up. Will it last? I'm not sure. But what other monthly charts do you think are worth discussing right now?
Yeah, I mean, we'll just go through the basic few ones that are important right now. Obviously, ETH, it had a really good month. I mean, it's up 7.95%. I mean, you can't even get that in the savings account. Pretty close to a savings account right now, but doing pretty good right now with ETH. Is anything invalidated? No. I mean, still a lower high, right? So this could be wave 1, wave 2 here. Now we got to put in a wave 3, which would be a massive move. Smaller wave 4, wave 5. Is what it is right now. Let's just see how this plays out. It's nothing too concerning. Nothing is invalidated when it comes to ETH. Again, I think for a lot of these altcoins, even just going back to Solana here, right? They are all putting in lower highs, right? We broke down here, but I mean, this is still a high. It's lower than this high. I mean, this high is higher than this high right here. And I can go across the board. Let's pull a Matic, another lower high down there on the monthly. Let's go to BNB. This chart, fuck this coin, right, guys? No, just kidding. But yeah, another lower high once again. So everything's been putting in a lower high. The only thing that really is shot up, and that's the only thing we probably should be keeping an eye on when it comes to the entire market, is Bitcoin. Bitcoin put in a higher high. I mean, compared to where we were back in June, July, we shot straight up. I mean, we're up 27%, 0.54 on the month. I do want to show this though on a different chart. I want to pull up Bitcoin on Coinbase's account, on Coinbase's chart, and I want to look at something that's happened in the past, right? Is this the right one? No, it's not the right one. BTC, is it USDT on Coinbase? I can't see it, but regardless, let's do this. Let's pull up this chart here, and we could take a look at some of the halving years, right? So I believe if I pull this up correctly, let's see, BTC pre-halving years, halving date chart, we see that the first halving was in November of 2012. I don't have the data for that, but let's go to May 11th, 2020. Let's see, that would be putting us roughly around the COVID crash, a little bit after it. That's right here. So the halving happened back here in May of 2020, right? We are in a pre-halving year, so something I really noticed was that there is always a big crash right before the halving. It just is. On average, it's about 40%. So if I go back to, I think it's July 2016, that was the previous one. Yeah, see, this chart doesn't have it. That's the bad thing. I don't know what Coinbase deleted my stuff on it. Ah, there we go. All right, 2016, we were looking at July of that month. So if I go here, gotta zoom in a little bit. So let's look for July 2016. That would be putting us right here in the red. So right around that halving, once again, we got a pretty good move to the downside, right? We put in, say, from here to there, about a 30% drop. And then once we look at COVID, that was a huge drop. And then, obviously we're waiting for the next one. And even back in 2012, there was a pretty sizable drop too. So we've definitely seen these crashes happen in the pre-halving years. So with Bitcoin being up this much right now, I wouldn't get too carried away with this monthly close. Yes, it's a higher high, right? But I mean, let's just, for the sake of it, let's say this is the height and we're expecting a 30 to 40% drop. That would put us roughly around, let's say 30%, put us around $24,000, 23,759. So is it possible that that could happen? Absolutely, right? I mean, if it's happened before, if we wanted to take the stance that in the pre-halving years, the halving, everything it's organized, it's going to happen each time the same way. Well, then this is probably something that we have to keep in mind. There is probably a chance that Bitcoin could drop this much. Now, I don't necessarily believe that the halving is going to be bullish to come this year around because there's too many things that are going to factor into it. But I think that there's a good chance that we could see another drop like this. And yes, we're getting frothy up here in this Bitcoin chart. We know that there is still the possibility that we could shoot up one more up into this upper range, 36 to 40,000. I'm not taking that off the table. But do I think it's likely to be sustained? I don't necessarily think it is. Again, we're seeing price consolidate, volumes are coming down. And that's the weird thing with Bitcoin lately. We're getting these massive pumps real quick where we see it on these charts and then just the volumes die off completely. So when I look at Bitcoin's monthly chart, yeah, it's 27% up, but that could absolutely just reverse in the next month or so. It's just something that we have to keep in mind. I know a lot of people are getting bullish here, and if you are getting bullish, that's up to you. But I think that we have to be somewhat realistic looking at this monthly close and say, we haven't seen that in a long time. We're heading into a halving. We've seen what happens in the halvings right around that time. It's a good chance that this could be completely reversed. So just something to think. I think the move's already happened up for Bitcoin, the major move. I don't necessarily think that there's going to be a lot more upside potential if we're taking this into account.
Okay. I think that's great coverage of Bitcoin right there. I don't know if we need to get into ETH too much at this point. It does seem like, I guess on Bitcoin again, we're kind of back into, we've seen like sharp moves and then just chop for a while and then another sharp move and then more chop. And we're back into a range here at, in the mid 34,000s. And, we see on the charts that daily we're on our way down from overbought. It's on its way back down. Price is remaining strong. If we look at the weekly, we're moving into the overbought territory, and on the monthly, we're kind of on the way back down as well. So it just seems like we're going to be chopping here for a little bit longer until we get the next piece of news, whether it's geopolitical stuff, whether it's regulatory with crypto in the US, whatever that may be. So it's just really kind of tough to figure out, what the next move is going to be, because it's going to be violent in either direction.
Look at this, dude. I mean, I just noticed this right now. We're looking for, I'll let you say it too, because you see what this is right there, right? Volumes are going
It's a big
down,
phone.
prices going up.
Yeah, that would
What is
be
that?
is that a bearish divergence?
Absolutely. So, I mean, there's so much that doesn't fucking make sense, right? I mean, how are we in a bull market when volumes are that fucking low? I mean, I don't need to say it. It's a 5-letter word, and the A is replaced with a 4. It's called fraud. We kind of know that what we're seeing here is nothing short of that. I mean, this just makes no sense whatsoever. And we could, like you said, you made a great point. The weekly we're going to be in the overbought territory fairly soon. Look at the monthly, still extremely overbought. Like, what the fuck, right? And you can see the volumes are
Yeah.
still, look how low the volumes are compared to where we are in price. That makes no sense. The daily, it's coming out of the overbought territory. I
Everyone's
think
going
it
to
can,
say that sellers have run out of tokens. That's what the general sentiment will be right there.
and I think we did a great job yesterday covering this. But even if the sellers run out of tokens, I think a lot of these stable coins are running out of backing. That's the real important thing to be making point of right now, right? I mean, we're talking about it now, but Bitfinex, which is a crypto exchange, they're owned by iFinex, which also owns Tether. They're having a lot of trouble in the UK now. They're saying that, yeah, I think it was like the FCA, which is the Financial Conduct Authority. It's the UK's kind of like SEC or something like that. They're pretty much saying that, like, yeah, you guys are operating in our country, you're unregulated, and you're not allowed to be here. And we know that the crypto in the UK is going to be regulated in 2024. We talked about it yesterday. This is not a good look. And again, we were talking about how there's a good chance that Tether could be delisted from Coinbase in the US. We saw that it was delisted in Coinbase back in Canada and in, Kraken in the UK, not the UK, in Canada as well on Friday. So I think that there's a lot of pain coming for a lot of these things. And the stable coins are, at the root cause of a lot of this, especially when you look at these volumes on the monthly. Like, guys, this makes no sense whatsoever. I don't know. I think there's like crypto Armageddon coming, to be honest with you. This is not sustainable whatsoever. But again, I could be wrong. And maybe stable coins are the future. I don't see it this way. But yeah, let's just look at total market cap real quick. There's a YouTuber that you guys probably all know, Benjamin Cohen, smart guy. I really respect him in a lot of his technical analysis. But he talked about, where we are at total market cap and how Bitcoin's pushed up, right, in price value. However, the alts have also gone up. But for some reason, we're in total market cap. We're kind of hitting this, resistance right at this level around 1.25, $1.26 trillion, right? He thinks it's a rotation of capital, meaning from alts, everything goes into Bitcoin, and then from alts, everything goes back into Bitcoin here. So pretty much just going back and forth. So eventually we're just finding the same total market cap resistance and no new money is necessarily coming in. I think that's a very fair assessment. I also think that a lot of this has to do with stable coins. I think that probably more recently, this is probably one of the reasons why we've seen this push up. I think a lot of the liquidity has left the system, but it's just something to keep an eye on. So I mean, even if you want to be bearish and still believe you have faith in the system, it's a triple top. It's not a good look, and you're in a parallel channel. You broke out of it once. I think you're going to go back out of it. If you look at this on the monthly, extremely overbought, right? And again, once it's it's put in a new high for the year, but again, that's because of Bitcoin. If we look at the weekly, it's getting close to overbought, but that monthly is no different than the Bitcoin chart. Going up while the volumes are coming down, not a good look for total. I think crypto is definitely going to get hurt really bad. To what extent, I have no idea. All I know is that it's going to be kind of scary. Grown men will cry. I'm not even exaggerating here, guys. So that's crypto in a nutshell. I do want to go into TradFi because I think there's some really important stuff there we should be keeping an eye on. Do you have anything else you want to add or check out real quick?
Not really. I've I said before we started, like, I'm just kind of, things are a little boring right now, but I think that's just because everyone's just kind of waiting for the back half of this week, and that's kind of where I'm at too. So we can wrap it up wherever you want.
Cool. Let's just do a few of the indices. We'll look at the VIX. We'll just check the DXY real quick. DXY, nothing's really changed. If we look at the monthly, for this monthly close, we're above key level of resistance, and we're finding resistance on the 107, right? We wicked up to it. We got rejected. We're just trading in between it. But on the monthly, guys, we got plenty of room to the upside here. So I'm not necessarily too concerned when it comes to the dollar. If you look at this on the daily, just so we take a quick look at this. It's a bullish engulfing candle right there. Does that mean that we're going to go up? It really depends on what's going on. Forex is really interesting to me right now. Euro's down a little bit today. We know that the yen is doing pretty bad as usual because non-intervention tactics, but nonetheless, I think the dollar is still in a pretty good spot. Now, if something happens with the Bank of Japan where they're forced to do something, say the yen gets completely out of control, then obviously if they raise rates, that's going to impact the dollar, the yen carry trade. Then the U.S. might be in a really sticky situation, how they're going to pretty much preserve both debt and also the USD. So we'll keep an eye on that. But for right now, on the monthly close, looks like we got plenty of room to the upside, unless something horrible happens. So keep that in mind. If we look at the S&P on the monthly, we could see that we have done something the opposite of crypto. We've actually seen a redtober or a dumptober, definitely not an uptober. So it's really funny how crypto and the traditional finance are diverging pretty big here, right? You can see that the S&P has moved down significantly this month. We're down it was down a lot lower yesterday, but 2.29%. This is 3 months in a row that we're going to close in the red. You can see the volumes are relatively low still, so I mean, wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see selling just because there's not enough people coming in to buy. So we can definitely see that we're on the way down. Levels that we want to keep an eye on. Well, on the monthly, if we're going to look at anything, we want to see this down here, the 38.55 level, which is the 50 moving average on the monthly. Guys, if we don't find support on that, then guess what? We're going to come lower and we're going to put in a new low for this bear market cycle. Is what it is. Just be cognizant that that's possible. If you look at the NASDAQ, we can see that right now on the monthly, we're trying to see if we can close below this 14,416. We're at 14,392 as we speak right now. It's pushing up a little bit. I think we're going to see some volatility towards the end of this month, just so we can see some this price move. I think we're going to get a lot of fake outs, to be honest with you. So even if we close above this, I wouldn't be surprised if we come right back down November 1st. It's very possible. I think there's a lot of fake outs coming our way. But again, there's a lot of support down here. If we lose 14,231 again, obviously we're going to have to come down on the monthly. Next level would be roughly around 13,724. So from where we currently are to 13,724, that would be another 4.63%. 660 point drop or so. I think that that's possible if we get some bad earnings. Again, Apple seemed to unveil a new colored MacBook Pro last night. Looks pretty sick. Ain't saving that ship, unfortunately, in my opinion. We're going to see how the earnings come out first before we make any judgments. But we got them and we got NVIDIA still to report earnings for this NASDAQ. Either one messes up in any way, it's a good chance we've been heading down for another 5% on the monthly. We'll keep an eye on that. And then the Dow, right? Dow had a wild day yesterday, 500 and something points up. We can see how much it came down and just went straight up to save its ass. However, we're still below key level of support. That 50 moving average is coming in soon. We hit the death cross. And it's funny how we got that death cross rally, right? It was a perfect death cross rally that we saw for the Dow. Can it go up more? Yeah, absolutely. You can probably find some resistance on this. Do I think that there's strength in the market for that to happen? I don't know. I also think there's a lot of stuff going on in the news that are definitely going to impact the strength of these moves to the upside. I think we're going to see deeper moves down and shorter corrective phases here. So we'll keep an eye on that, but I definitely think this is a downtrend for the Dow. And, this death cross isn't a good sign. We got death cross back here when the banking crisis. Sure, yeah, it didn't last long. But, I mean, the previous death cross that we got was roughly here in March of 2022. And we see that took us all the way down to 28,729. So we'll see what type of death cross this produces, what this does for the markets. The last thing that we need to talk about today is the VIX, because what people haven't been keeping an eye on is the VIX has been getting crushed for the past 2 days, right? And it's no surprise when you think about what day it is. It's Halloween. The VIX doesn't do well on Halloween because I had a joke there, but I'm just not going to make that joke. It's doing bad because it's the monthly close, guys. There's a lot of contracts that are out there. I think a lot of people that are betting on the short term, of the VIX going up, they're getting screwed a little bit here. They're also crushing it too because the markets are necessarily up a little bit. There's no reason why the VIX should be down 7.5% when the S&P is only up 0.53%. Makes no sense. But I mean, we could see from the past 2 days that we're roughly down 13, almost 14% for the VIX, right? And I mean, doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell you that we got a golden cross coming right here, right? We got the daily getting close to oversold. We got a golden cross that's probably going to happen. Probably going to find some support on this 200 EMA around 1789. I think this is a bit of a fake out here. I think that they're crushing the VIX, and eventually we're going to see in November, December, we're going to start to see this push up. So I'm not necessarily too concerned with the VIX. Sure, it's, on the monthly, we got plenty of room to the upside, right? Look at that. We have plenty of room to the upside, and I think we can get above the 15 to 200 once again. Maybe not this month, but definitely next month or in December. I mean, guys, that's only what 20.87. We hung there for a while this month. So see if that happens. And then on the weekly, we could see that, we're finding support on the 50 moving average, 1822. So if we stay above this level and we start closing above, 20 again, I think there's a good chance that we have some room to the upside. Can it be explosive? Absolutely. There's tons of things that could definitely shoot this up. I mean, right before the show, we found out that Yemen declared war on Israel. I mean, that's something like that is massive, but we just haven't seen the markets react to anything like that yet. So with the VIX, I'm still really bullish. I bought a shit ton of VIX this morning. UVIX, my bad. I just thought that, you know what, if it's pulling back a little bit here and I'm seeing all these levels of support in existence and people are just betting against it on the final day of the month, I don't know. That seems like, for me personally, that seems like an opportunity. I'm going to take advantage of it. So that's pretty much everything you need to know for the monthly closes. There was a lot of information. Everything doesn't make sense right now in different sectors. Crypto doesn't make sense. TradFi doesn't necessarily make sense. Kind of a market fake out, if you ask me. But all you need to know, we're down 10% since July. This was definitely a pumptober for crypto, and it was definitely a dumptober for TradFi. So that's where we stand.
All right. That's how we are going to wrap it up for today. We'll be back tomorrow after Jerome Powell is done speaking. We'll be discussing that. We didn't touch on the UAW today, but we'll definitely mention that tomorrow and how that's going to impact inflation, because the wage hikes they're getting there, which is great for workers, like good for them. I'm all for people getting more money and these corporations finally having to pay for the labor that they're getting. But how is that going to impact inflation? We'll be discussing that and more tomorrow. So do us a favor, like, subscribe, drop a comment, share us out on social. We'll be back the rest of this week. A lot of fun stuff. I think it's going to be a very, very busy back half of this week as we begin November. So appreciate everybody for joining us today. Have a great Halloween. Stay safe out there. Have some fun, and we'll see you next time.
Happy Halloween, everyone.